Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Matt MacArthur. I'm running for Congress in the Texas 13th Congressional District here in West Texas. Now, I wanted to make a video talking about why I'm going to run, a little bit about myself, and tell you a few things that I intend to do if y'all elect me. Now, as I said, I'm Matt MacArthur. I was born and raised here in the Panhandle of Texas, mostly around Dickens County. I've spent part of my life, my adult life anyway, working in other parts of the state, but this has always been home. And if y'all are wondering why every other congressional candidate is shooting videos in a studio, and I am shooting one at Dickens Spring Park, it's because I wanted to be more authentic. I actually thought about dressing up in the suit with the red power tie and having something shot in the studio. But at the end of the day, that's not me. I'm the guy that actually likes coming out here. If y'all have a chance to come through Dickens, stop at Dickens Spring Park. It's kind of pretty. And there's a good cafe down the road. You can't miss it because, well, Dickens not that big. Anyway, in my life, I went to college at Sam Houston after high school. I was an Eagle Scout. I was your typical high school kid growing up, and I wanted to go into law enforcement. So I attended college at Sam Houston State University, where I majored in criminal justice. After that, and while I was in college, but after that as well, I worked as a hunting guide on a couple of the biggest quail hunting operations in South Texas. I then attended the police academy at Wharton County Junior College, and I worked for Sealy Police Department for a few years. After that, I decided that I wanted to make a little bit more money. I liked being a police officer, but it wasn't my passion. So I took an administrative job in materials control in the oil field. Gave me a chance to really see the energy sector. Now, that's probably not your normal pedigree for a congressman in this country. I didn't go to Harvard or Yale, so I don't have that going for me, and I don't have a big family name. See, I'm a guy whose roots tie into this red dirt of West Texas. I can trace the cattle and the farming history nearly back to the Civil War. The house I lived in was owned by a great uncle. I can trace that back nearly a century. I think that this district, for the past, at least 3 or 4 decades, has been represented by people who don't really understand what the rural counties need. And this county covers 42 counties and 40,000 square miles. It's a very large one. It stretches all the way from the Panhandle border of Oklahoma and New Mexico, north of Amarillo, all the way down along the Oklahoma border through Wichita Falls into I-35 north of Dallas. It is big. And there are a lot of different needs and values the communities have. Now, I point that out because while all of them are a little bit different, all of them are the same. I could talk about living and growing up in Spur, Texas, or Dickens County, and I think that people in other little counties around this district, well, Dickens County isn't their county, it's also not that different from where they grew up. And I wanted somebody in this district who would truly represent the people in it. Most of the economies in this district are based around agriculture. Cotton farming where I am, wheat farming up north, cattle. My family's done all that. I've worked with the cattle. I've driven the combine. I understand the hardships that go into that. I saw it with my family, my grandparents especially, who ran a farming and ranching operation here in Dickens County. I saw how hard a person can work to make very little. Even though they were successful enough at it, it was still a constant struggle. And a lot of that struggle was not necessarily caused by the weather, even though they always pray for rain, or caused by just a bad day, as any job would have. A lot of it was caused by bad economic policy that started at the state and national level. And I don't feel that this district has ever really had the representation that understands what the people in it need. Now, I mentioned that I was a police officer. I would be one of the very few congressmen to help write laws, which is after all what the legislative branch does, who's actually enforced them at the street level. It's one thing for somebody who has a law practice to chime in on how a law should be written, and to be sure we need some lawyers there. But at the end of the day, any law they passed, any law that any legislature passes, is going to be enforced. It's going to be utilized at the street level, in the person-to-person level. And right now, our Congress doesn't have very many people who've ever done that, who've ever had to put handcuffs on people, who've ever had to let somebody walk because a law was written improperly. And I think that I would be a good person to do that. I think that that voice needs to be heard at that table. I also point out that I've worked in the oil industry, specifically oil field and water construction. Now, those of you who have watched the economy recently, since Trump's been in office, will understand that the economy is booming compared to the Obama years. It is going like gangbusters. A huge part of that, 300,000 jobs of that, can be traced directly to the oil sector. Here in my home state, Midland, Odessa, parts of New Mexico as well, they are popping. The U.S. has, for the first time in its history, become a net exporter of oil. We are shipping out more oil than we're buying. Now, if you've been watching the news in the Middle East, where historically we've gotten the majority of our oil, you can probably see why it's a good idea for us to keep our money here, to put Americans to work, and quit putting people in Saudi Arabia or Iraq or Syria or, well, topically, I suppose, Iran to work. We're able to keep that money here for once. We're able to keep those jobs here. And that's another thing Congress does not have a whole lot of. There are not many people in Congress who have worked in the oil industry, who've worked in the energy industry, that understand what it takes and understand its needs, its value. Now, I know a lot of people want to go to green energy, and here in West Texas and Dickens County and to the north, we have a lot of windmills popping up, and that's a great thing. I mean, if we can do it cleanly, we should. But I also know the struggles that go into it. Struggles like actually building them, like getting the land rights, like just the roadways to ship them. We can talk about putting windmills up everywhere, but are we actually going to have the road systems to get the windmills? These things are massive. They take wide loads and oversized loads to haul them. Are we going to have the roadways to get them from point A to point B? And over the course of this campaign, I'll be posting more videos. Yes, I'll be going to candidate forums so I can answer specific questions, but I wanted to do videos like this so that when I answer a question, I can go into depth on the actual reasoning behind it, the thought process, the logic. Something that I think is largely missed in our current political debate. But to give you a brief little touch on what I'll be talking about, as I bring up the wind energy, one of my big focuses is going to be on infrastructure grants for small counties, for things like roadways, things like broadband. After all, if we're going to have a thriving middle America, they need to have the same technology as our urban centers, or at least access to it. I'm going to focus on your small town libraries, specifically going after the Macmillan embargo, which I'll go into in another video. But I'm going to focus a lot of energy on trying to get grants and federal help to our small libraries. If you look at any local community, they're small. They don't have a lot of money. They can't keep up with book collections or keep up with the technology that your libraries need. And that is going to be a very heavy emphasis of mine because I've seen firsthand. My grandmother helped found the library here in Dickens County. I have seen firsthand the positive effect that that sort of thing can have on a lot of the small communities, and I would suspect for those of you here in District 13 watching this video, you'll agree they're very important. I'm also going to try to get something passed that, whether it's an amendment or an actual law, that makes child support tax deductible. That's probably not going to be popular with a lot of people, largely because Republicans like to focus on family values. But understand, focusing on family values doesn't simply mean focusing on the families that we want them to be. Sometimes we have to focus on families as they are. And right now we have a lot of non-custodial parents in this country who are paying child support and helping with other bills, medical insurance, that sort of thing, child care. Yet it's only the custodial parent who gets the tax relief from it. And if a non-custodial parent was still married, they would get a tax break that they would share with the other parent. I think it only reasonable that if somebody is going to be current on their child support, they're going to be current on any other support that goes into it, like child care or medical insurance, that they should get a tax deduction as well. We'd allow them to deduct a lot of that if they were married. Well, single people deserve tax deductions and considerations too. I'm going to be the kind of politician that thinks outside the box. Unfortunately, we have had politicians in Washington for the last, well, forever, that come from a class of people that don't necessarily like accepting non-traditional solutions. Now, we've seen with President Trump that bringing in a non-politician can do great things economically. I think it's actually going to be something we're going to look back on and say he did great things with foreign policy and other issues as well. He's done a lot with criminal justice reform. But if you watch what happens with President Trump in the media, you're going to see a president who has fought every step of the way, even by his own party sometimes. And it's because those same people who fight the president now have been trying to come up with the same solutions for 30 years. Every time we get a new president, it seems like they're trying to make peace in the Middle East, and especially with Israel and the Palestinians, and that hadn't happened. We have tried giving money to Iran, we've tried attacking Iran, we've tried all kinds of stuff with Iran. That hadn't happened. Same with North Korea. I remember in high school when Clinton was in office and people were complaining about North Korea getting nukes or Iran getting nukes. You know what? They're still there doing the same stuff. I have heard the same complaints about the economy or healthcare. And look at Obamacare. I don't really need to tee off on that, but God knows I could. The same ideas have been proffered over and over and over by the same types of politicians for generations. I'm not going to be that guy. It's one thing I got both as a police officer working on the streets and working in the oil field. That happy box, the black and white world that people tend to think they live in of right and wrong answers, doesn't exist. You've got to be willing to step out of your comfort zone and explore something different. I'm going to be that kind of politician. And I'm going to be the type of politician who gets to Washington and does not want to stay in Washington. The reason I'm filming here at this little park, and you can probably hear water running in the background, is because I come here often. I like it a lot. And when we were trying to find a place that I could film an intro video, I wanted to find the kind of place where you could get to know me. I'm not wearing a suit because I don't like wearing suits. I'm wearing what you would see me wear any given day of the week. I'm sitting in a place that I come often. I want to be the kind of politician that represents the people here, that doesn't put on a pair of boots here and then run off to wear a three-piece suit or something by the Brooks Brothers in Washington. I want to see the kind of representative that when the Cotton Bill, or the Farm Bill rather, is sitting on Nancy Pelosi's desk for 6 months like it did, is raising a wall-eyed fit, even with the Democrats in Congress, to get it done because we have farmers who are hurting badly because of it. See, I want a politician that when the federal government says, all right, we're going to give grants to put in all these big windmills in Dickens or Motley or whichever county, I want the kind of politician who's going to say, hey, that's a great idea, but what about our roads? Because there's 2-lane roads going up to that area, and these wide loads are going to tear them up, and the people who live in the area are then going to have to drive on a road that looks like it's been bombed. See, I want the politician who's going to consider the logistics, the kind of politician who's going to consider the issues at the ground level. I've seen a lot of politicians in this area, and I'm a fairly conservative person. They've all been Republican, which is probably good in recent memory. But I want to see the kind of even Republican who can step outside the box. Now, I live in this district, unlike some of the people who are running currently in it. I have a home here. My roots are here. I pay taxes here. My family is here. I want the kind of politician who can say that about his district, who, when he says he's going home, doesn't mean he's flying back to his house in Virginia outside of Washington. It means he's flying back here because this is where he lives. Now, as I said, I'm going to make a host of short videos talking about my issues so that you can understand where I'm coming from and so that you're getting the full answer and the full reasoning behind my thought process, not just a prepackaged one-liner that looks great with the press. I want you to know where I'm coming from, because the only way this district gets true and honest representation is if I, as a politician, can speak frankly and clearly to the citizens, and if they have that same ability to give feedback. Y'all can all feel free to check me out on Twitter. It's at MacArthur for Congress. You can check me out on Facebook. Just Google Facebook, search Matt MacArthur for Congress. I have those pages. Feel free to like it. Feel free to comment. I am also going to say this. You are not going to see me trying to raise a lot of money. And it may be to my detriment. There's 15 guys just on the Republican side. Another 3 is Democrats. One of them lives in Washington, D.C. Another guy is from Dallas. He's a big donor. Another woman's from Fort Worth. She's also got a lot of money. There's a lot of money being thrown behind candidates, and this may not work out well for me because I'm not trying to raise it. But another big issue, guys, you're going to see me addressing is going to be the national debt. Right now, we are approaching our debt being 100% GDP. Now, it may already be there. I'll actually have to check that big clock they have in Times Square. Anyway, the reason I'm not going to try to raise a lot of money is because how can we in good conscience tell politicians when they go to Congress or the Senate or the presidency to be careful and be frugal with our taxpayer dollars if we can't expect them to be frugal with their own campaign dollars? So you will see me leading by example. And as you can probably tell, this was not a pre-prepared speech. I came up with some bullet points. I thought up what I wanted to tell you and how I wanted to tell you frankly, and I'm doing it off the cuff. What you see with me, ladies and gentlemen, is what you get, imperfect and all. I'm going to be the representative that is West Texas, not just a guy who's from West Texas when it's convenient. Anyway, I hope to see some comments on here, and I'd love to see some of y'all interact with me so I better know what other people think and find important. Anyway, I would be honored if you consider voting for me on March 3rd in the Republican primary. And I will be making other videos. Please stop in and see them. Thank you very much.